So welcome to this webinar, which we co-host with Digitopia. Digitopia is our partner in the UK and in the Middle East. So, welcome to Halil and
Nilüfer.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And what I'm going to talk about today is all the organization capabilities you need to succeed with digital transformation. And my name is Pernille Kræmmergaard. I'm the CIO of DI2X, formerly in Denmark and Norway, known as Digitaliseringsinstituttet. And I have a background. I have worked with this topic for more than 25 years, where I have been concerned with how organization and leaders and managers create value with technology and IT and data. And I founded the DI2X and Digitalization Institute many years ago. Now I need to change my screen here. I don't know what's here we go. Founded DI2X because we saw that a lot of organizations actually fail to deliver on the matrix when it comes to digital transformation and their ambition. And we believe that every organization globally is in the middle of a digital transformation. And a lot of organizations, they struggle to how to kind of grasp and how to start discussing digital transformation. They need a language. They maybe don't know where they are today, where they want to go, where they, which capabilities, which competences they need, and so on and so forth. So this is basically what we do. We give in our customer value is in DI2X to provide people with a language to talk about digital transformation and also to actually ensure impact. And what we do is that we provide a language, we provide through our programs and our resource center, we give people a mindset. We have tools where we help people to understand, prioritize, and execute the digital transformation. And hopefully our approach to that kind of move people forward in creating a common digital mindset and create business impact. That's what we do. And we have various service and program. We have a corporate subscription on our tool and our resource center. We have a masterclass program, which has run for the last 6 years. It will come out in English during 2023 as a blended learning. Now it's offered in Denmark and also in Norway. We have a certification program where we make certifications into our frameworks and tools for people who want to facilitate or are responsible for facilitating the digital transformation within their own organization or maybe in customers' organization. We have what we call a digital mindset training program. This is a blended learning course. It normally runs over a year with 4 different modules. That runs in the municipality in Norway with where we cover more than half of all the Norwegian municipalities running participating in the programs. We have different service offerings, and we also have a partner program. We have certified partner and we have sales partners. And this is how Digitopia comes in today because they are one of our partners. And but not more about my company, just to give you an impression about which context I'm giving the presentation in. All we do is based on 2 frameworks about digital maturity and organization capabilities. I have written 2 books. This one is about digital maturity. It's out in Danish. It came out last year, and it will come out in Norwegian very soon, hopefully before the end of this year. And it will. We have also the manuscript in English. It's not published on the publishing company yet, but it's available if any of you would like to read the English version. And on the next framework is about organization capability, which I will talk to you about today. It's also out in English. It has been out since 2018. It's out in the 2nd edition now, and it's also will come in Norwegian very soon, and it's also published in English actually at SB Publishing company. And you can find where you can, if any of you are interested in reading the books after this webinar, it can be purchased directly at the publishing company's webpage. But it's organizational capabilities that I will focus on today, but just to give you a kind of introduction to that framework, and why I have, so to speak, created it, is that I see a lot of people struggling, as I mentioned previously, with the digital transformation. And they also struggle to actually, what is it actually? So I have made the digital maturity model where I talk about 5 generations of digital maturity. Whereas the first one, which especially when we start in Denmark, when we start about talking about digitalization, we said, how do we support our existing practices with digital solution and automate simple manual tasks? It's generation 1, where we see digital technology for the existing practices, and not to change that practice, but just to automate it, so to speak, or digitalize it, or take a manual kind of formula and make it digital and so on. And then it kind of, when that was done, we start discussing, our organization often start to discuss, okay, how can they use technology and IT to do what they already do, but just do it better? Like do it quicker. How do we make a very solid infrastructure where we can use digital technology for efficiency? So, and how can we standardize, how can we implement new standardized processes and systems? And with that is kind of settled in the organization, that they're ready for generation 3. This is where we say, how can and do we, with technology, a digital opportunity and technology, improve our services and products, or deliver them in a new way? So digital technology now has become part of the product and the services that we offer to the kind of the market, to our customer, our citizens. And the IT department, whereas in generation 2 is very often an infrastructure provider, now it's become more of a partner of the rest of the organization. And many organizations start building their own digital department. Maybe it's linked to, very close link to the IT department, or maybe it's the same department. But there will be people now focusing on digitalization and not just IT. So, and generation 4 is where we say, okay, now we are used to having more an open mind towards taking technology and digital opportunities into our business and into our product and services. Now we start saying to ourselves, how can we, together with others, offer our customer coherent services and product and develop new business model? Now we talk about the customer basic need, and we want to, now we start to work in ecosystem. Maybe we are part of a platform, maybe we work with the smart city and so on. Now things are kind of linked together and very often automated. And the technology organization now, the IT and digitalization now grows in the organization and becomes a technology organization where they are digital architect, because who is ensuring that all the different partners within the ecosystem kind of is linked together, digitalized, and also they can share data and so on. So, and in generation 5, we start asking, now we can offer customer in a coherent way. Now we become very occupied with how do we offer customers personalized services for the individual customer, and how can we kind of create attractive working environments for our employees using new technology, using data about the customer, using, for example, machine learning, artificial intelligence, so that can be kind of support us in our professional life, so we can actually do a better job. And now we start to use technology as a challenger in the way that we actually work. It's kind of changing the professions and so on. So that's kind of the 5 generation of digital maturity, which you can read about in the blue book I showed you. But when it comes to transformation, from the way we talk about it and understand it, is that in generation 1 or 2 is digitalization, is where we do what we do already, we just do it better. We don't change our business, we don't change our services or our products. That we start doing in generation 3, and now you start to you need to transform the organization, and it starts in generation 3, but it's very, very profound in generation 4 and 5, where we have to fundamentally think different about your strategies, your technological platform, your organization, your collaboration relationship, your professionalism, and so on. And that kind of, for that to be able to be in the higher generation, you need to kind of transform your organization, and you need some new organization capabilities. And so now I'm coming to what's the topic of this webinar, is that to come up in generation 3, 4, and 5, you need organization capabilities. And that's the other frame that we have, and which I will dig into today. So I talk about 10+3 capabilities for digital transformation, and the 10 of the capability is very much linked to the organization as a whole, and it's about strategy, it's about technology, it's about organization, and then the 3 that's about leadership within the organization. And based on the framework which I will take you into in more details in a minute, we have made a tool where you can actually make a self-evaluation. It's a test. It maps and evaluates the organization's capability in these 4 main areas: strategy, technology, organization, and leadership. And it's about, in the questionnaire, there will be, in the test, excuse me, there will be 39 questions, as well as 5 to 7 background questions. It takes them approximately 15 to 20 minutes to answer. And all the questions in the test is formulated in a way that it in itself generates reflection and thereby learning for the respondent. And when you get the result, you get an intuitive graphic where you can show how good are you at some capabilities, where you're strong, where your weaknesses. You can compare, you can do a benchmark over time, and so on and so forth, which I will show to you during my presentation. And the way that the question is asked is that there's a statement, and then you have a 7-point scale that you should say that how much, in this case, in the organization, this strategic horizon has generally become longer than has been in the past. Conscious strategic considerations are made about the industry, the company, the business model, and the competitive situation in 10 years in light of technological and digital development. How good are you in doing that? To a very small extent or to a very high extent? Then you just put on your evaluation of that question or that kind of statement, and then you turn to the next question. So that is how we ask. And to give you an impression about how the result comes out, you can see here, it's based on all our respondents this morning. It was 2,404, and it came out like this. This is not a big surprise to me. It's kind of in average in general, and that's not surprisingly since we have so many respondents. But some are, a higher score than others. And that's typical also what we see in organization when they evaluate themselves, is that organization and technology area here is very often lower than this one. And you can also see, if you look at the capabilities in itself, ambidextrous is kind of scoring the lowest, together with technological foresight. I will come back to that one. But when you look at this is from a real leadership group containing 21 respondents, you can see much more variation in how they score themselves on the different capabilities. And at the end of this, my presentation, I will show you the high score and the low score of elements within the different capabilities. So please stay tuned, and I'll come back to that. So, but let me start with the strategic capability, the capabilities within the strategic area. And the first one is digital visionary. It means that the organization can assess the unpredictable and competitive and sometimes dancing landscape to rethink the organization so that it's also relevant in 10 years' time and reconfigure accordingly. So if you look at the picture here, it kind of shows the unpredictable, maybe sometimes even dancing, and also digital landscape. There are peaks, there are valleys, it's difficult to to know where you're standing. You know, one day you have a very big competitive advantage, and then you be disrupted, and then you are disrupted, and suddenly you are down in the valley and so on. So we have to kind of maneuver that landscape. That it can be technological disruption, it can also be climate disruptions, supply chain disruption, and so on. And if you're going to maneuver in such a landscape, you have to be very, as an organization, you have to be able to reconfigure accordingly to that landscape. And you also have to have a longer horizon that you normally are used to. I said 10 years because 10 years is a very, very long time. I know that. And it can, you know, you will say that, oh my, we cannot look 10 years, you know, ahead. It's very unpredictable, and the new technology and so on and so forth. But my point is that if you don't have a longer horizon, you will only kind of continue what you already do, just do it better. So when you force yourself to think with a long horizon, you kind of start wondering, and you get scenarios for how can this be, what should be our vision for our company, what should we be good at in 10 years, why should we actually be, how can we be relevant. So this is marked with the sun here. That's symbolizes a vision, what we are heading towards, and visions has a tendency to change, and that's also okay. But always struggle to kind of reach the vision. So what is important here is to have the horizon, have a longer horizon, and to be able to get scenarios, to think about what can it become, how can we use technology and so on. You need inspiration from others, how others use digital and technological possibility. And then you have to ensure that you always could redistribute your resources to the new and away from the old, including redesign, new structures in the organization, as well as develop the capabilities and skills that you need to succeed due to your place in the landscape at any time. So that is what is important to master within what I call digital visionary. The second capabilities within the strategic areas is end customer focus. That means that you as an organization is aware of the basic need of the end customer. Which basic need do you actually want to fulfill as an organization? Somebody is not muted here. I don't know who they are. Maybe it's you, my co-host here. Thank you. And the basic need of the end customer. The basic need is like, you don't need a car, you need mobility. For example, that kind of basic need of your end customer. And then you have to meet it in a way that always fulfill the changing requirements and expectation. The basic needs is constant, it doesn't change. But the way that you the way that you expect or you want to have that basic need fulfilled is changing, and it's changing in relation to digital and technology possibilities. Because new technology kind of change people's expectations. Like, for example, if the basic need is mobility, back in time, you would have been happy to have a quicker horse. Now you want a new car that runs on electricity, and it has to be almost self-driven and so on and so forth. So I hope that gave you a sense about what I mean with in customer focus. And to master in customer focus, 3 elements is important. That's about the basic needs of the end customer. Is the way that you fulfill the need, is that up to date? And do you have the right relationships to your customer and end customer? And do you collect and use data about them to ensure that you're always on track? And the last one within the strategic area is ecosystem mindset, which means that your organization, you as an organization, both value and are able to enter into mutual rewarding partnerships where value is created and shared, and see this as an essential for you to ensure strategic success. And it's kind of challenged the way that we have thought about value change, where you are in control. In ecosystem, you have many partners, and you kind of have to work with being attractive as a partner. Otherwise, people will go somewhere else. And being good at having an ecosystem mindset, the first thing is that you have to be able to partnering, being excellent and comfortable in engaging in mutual rewarding collaboration, a relationship with many types of partners, sometimes even your competitors, your customer, your suppliers, people from other industries, maybe some from the public sector or the private sector, and so on and so forth. And the second thing you have to master is attractiveness, is that you always work as an organization to be attractive for others. That goes both from the employees that you have in your organization and the organizational part of it, but also in a technological and data-wise manner. Do you have the data that is interesting for others? Can you easily kind of link your systems together so that data can automatically run from one partner to the other and so on? And the last one is casting. Are you strategically aware of which collaboration relationships, networks, and so on you include today in your ecosystem, and which one you need to go forward in what is your strategic goal as an organization? So this is the three things. If we look at our tool and the number of respondents this morning, they evaluate in general like this. And what we can also see in our tool is that you can take a look at how do you actually, if you take digital visionary, which is 4.2, how is that divided into three areas? Here you can see that this is Horizon 4.3, Inspiration 4.4, and responsibility as the reconfigurability in your organization. And that is actually where they score lowest. It's only 3.6. And if you were in a leadership group, it would have been interesting to see if people agree on this. And let me show you, this is the 2,409 people who are answering this question related to reconfigurability. They score like this, which is not a surprise. It very often comes in what a normal normalfordeling. It's a normal deviation curve when so many people have answered. I will later on show you how one answer can look in the same management group when it comes to 20 people, for example. But this is how they score the many people and what we can actually dig out of our tool and the report, or you could if you were making a test in your own organization. The next area, excuse me. The next area is technology. And the first one here is technological foresight. It means that you constantly and systematically monitor, evaluate, and applying the technological development and digital tendency and signals for the benefit of the end customer, the business, and the organization. And what you need to do here is that you have to monitor, you have to kind of systematically monitoring the new technology and digital development, and have a clear the responsibility for monitoring and looking for new technology, seeing what is going on out there, which technology are there, mature, how mature are they, and so on and so forth. There has to be a clear responsibility for someone in the organization to take care of that part. The next one is that you have to be, as an organization, you have to be able to evaluate the potential of the technological and digital trends for the organization and what it will take to master the technology or the digital trends. And in that evaluation, you have to involve managers and employees in that evaluation. That cannot be done for the people being responsible for monitoring the technological development in general. And then when you have evaluated and you have evaluated that this technology and digital trends will actually be important for you to develop and it will be beneficial and so on, you have to decide how to implement the technology in the organization. The next capability is IT orchestration. It means that you as an organization being both solid on the inside and flexible on the outside, and be aware and have an awareness in the organization how the IT architecture is and must be designed, and it's also about IT structure known as IT governance and the role of the IT department. My experience is that the last thing here is it's not clear in all organizations which role the IT department actually is expected to play, either in general and not in the digital transformation either. So we ask in the 3 elements here. It's about the architecture, which we have to make sure that we have, and it's also understood that we have a stable core of centralized managed standard system, which is kind of the core of the organization. And then we also have other IT solutions and applications that need to be managed much more decentralized, much more flexible in the organization. The other one is that do we have the decision structures, which means that general principle of policies on IT governance, IT architecture, IT security, and ensure that this is good understood and applied in the organization. And the last one, as I said, was the role of the IT. And the last one within the technological area is data-driven. It means that the organization can manage, control, use, and present many types of data as an organizational and strategic resource, and establish the right data governance for this. And the first one is that to master here is that see the opportunity with data. Imagine and work systematically with how data and data analysis can be used for brand new services and for new decision support, and be good in realizing the opportunities. The next one is data governance. Do we have rules, procedure, and guidelines on our metadata, our data usage, our quality, access to data, data ethics, data transparency, and are we sure that they are known and respected within the organization? And the last one here to master is competences. Do employees and managers have the right competences to work with data in a good quality way? And do we assure, that we have access to the necessary specialist competences, both internally and externally, if we want to work with data in a new way, not just to support what we are doing in the organization as a decision support, but also to use data to create brand new services, as I mentioned. So it's a strategic resource. And when it comes to, if you look at here, you can see the result of one management group consisting of 21 respondents. I have kind of, you cannot see the name, of course, but it was taken in April. And you can see here that they, when it comes to technology and organization, as in general, they are lower than the other areas. But now, since we're talking now about technology, you can see that it's technological foresight that they have the biggest problem with. They evaluate themselves to score the lowest. And this is another way that it's put, which also can be seen in the software. So let's dig a little bit into this about technological foresight. And when you look at the 3 elements under technological foresight, you can see that monitoring, they scored 3.6, in evaluation 3.3, and in action 3.3. So, and now I would like to see if this is one of the lowest score, and I'm a little bit curious about how that the 2021 in the leadership group here kind of have evaluated themselves due to that specific element and question. And this is how it's spread. I think that's very interesting in this management group, that they can see so differently on the same question when they are asked to reply on behalf of the organization and not their own department within the organization. So this is there's a big variation here. And if I was doing some process consultancy or workshop or whatever in that organization, I would definitely ask them, this looks a little bit strange to me, that you in the same management group can see so differently on the same question. We need to talk about this. Can we learn something from the manager who kind of scores to a great extent or to a very great extent? What have they done? How have they understood the question? Can we learn something from how they practice it since they are so good at it? And what about that there's 8 of the 21 that actually score that we don't do to a small extent? So what is their experience and so on? And the next one is the organization. There are 4 capabilities on the organization. The first one is ambidextrous. It means that we at the same time as an organization, with the one hand, can exploit and improve the existing business, and on the other hand can explore and create new. And that we have the right structure within the organization to do both. And also have the right management practices, because it's the management practice and the structure, you need something for the exploitative way of doing it, and you need another structure and managing practices to do the more exploration part of the organization. So you have to have the right structure in the organization and the right management practices established in the organization for the both way of working. And the first element here that's important to master is that the exploration part. Do you actually earmark resources for doing exploration in the organization? Do you think that the balancing between exploitation and exploration is on the right level in the organization? That's the second part. And then are you able to handle the tension and dilemmas that may arise from working with both optimization and exploitation on the one hand, and on the other hand, working with exploration and doing something new on the other? The next one is agile. It means that the organization can act smoothly and adapt at the same time as decision-making competences is given to teams close to the customer, and that there is a widespread acceptance of being in beta. So when we talk about agile here, agile has been used in software development for decades. It's nothing new for a lot of software engineers and developers. But when it comes to organization, when you can work, we use agile in 2 ways, both as a method. When you do innovation and development, you can use agile methods. But we also use agile as an organizational mindset. So we use it in both ways. And the first one, when it comes to being good at master agile as an organization capability, is that you should be able to customize things. So you can quickly respond to changes in the customer's expectation. Or if you see inconvenience in the way that you are solving tasks and difficulties in how you organize work and so on. The next one is beta mode, where actually as an organization, not just within the projects, but also as an organization, actually can we accept that you are in beta mode. What you do when it comes to software and digital solutions is that they can always be changed. You're also comfortable as an organization to go out with minimal viable product, because you know that's the way that you can get feedback, you can get the customer or others input to how you can do things better. And you also accept mistakes and failures, but you also ensure that you learn from them. And ensuring that you learn from them is very much we linked it to the last element here, which is organization, where you ensure that you organize the way that you work in a proper way. And if you delegate responsibility to teams, you give competent feedback. So you are both as from the employees to the managers, but also from the managers to the employees, and also vertically in the organization. So we ensure that knowledge is shared around the organization. The third one within the organization is competence here, where And that means that you constantly are recruiting and developing the competences of managers and employees to suit the organization current and also the future tasks, strategies, and business model. You can see here, the picture here is some people are already having their competences and the mindset that they are on the top. Another person that has been on the top is kind of leaving. He's not that interested in that. Some people are running up there. They're very curious. They very much want to have the mindset and the competences that is needed. And you can also see another person is running in the wrong direction. And for other people, it can be difficult to kind of change the way of thinking, the mindset and the competences to be able to work in a much more digitalized environment and organization. So the first one you need to, as an organization, is you have to be good at identifying which competences and capabilities are needed in the light of the technological and digital development and what will be needed in the future. Are you good in mobilizing the right workforce to recruit and retrain the employees who are good in creating values with technology and digital possibilities? And the last one, do you invest sufficiently in the development of the competences and skills in the light of the digital development in the organization? And the last one within the organization is workplace environment, which means being aware of and attentive to the technological, the physically, the cultural, and the structural frames that the organization offers employees, and whether these are up to date and attractive. So do you actually think as an organization, how good are you actually in being aware of being attractive in a digital sense as a workplace for both managers and employees, and also digital talent? So they want to be employed in your organization. Do you ensure that you adapt to the technological environment? Do you ensure that your technological environment are up to date and follow the requirement and expectation from the employees, but also the expectation you as an organization and maybe manager has for the employees? And the last one is do you have clear structures in your organization that support and promote digitalization, the new way of working with technology? And last but definitely not least, how you structure your work around data within the organization. When it comes to the organization part, this is the same leadership team. They took the test, the organization capability test in April. This is their score. You saw it before. But if you look at the organization, it varies quite a bit how they score themselves. But what is interesting here is that they also took the test again half a year later. And now you can see here that it has changed. They have actually, within the area of organization, become better. And then, of course, I made a benchmark analysis of where I can see in the middle, you can see the score in April, and the mark outside the center is for the score in October. So they have actually changed the organization. They have become better in workplace environment. They have also become more aware of the competences. During this half year, we, of course, they made a lot of, they put a lot of resources into kind of the digital transformation of the organization. And they decided in April that they would actually do something here. And they have succeeded in that. Whereas it comes to Agile, they have actually recognized that they are maybe not as good as they thought they were. They have become, they are not as good as they were in April. It's probably because they're now aware of what it actually takes to be Agile. And when it comes to ambidextrous, they have also increased. But let's take a look at where the biggest changes has taken place. It's actually here. It's changed 0.6 within half a year. That's quite fascinating, actually. And if we take a look at where they have changed the most, it comes to the three elements: attractive, adapted, and structural. And I think that the biggest changes within how attractive they are. You can see how they on the left-hand side, you can see how they score themselves and how the respondent answer the question about being attractive in April. And on the right-hand side, you can see how the same management group evaluated themselves in October. And then the last one is the leadership capabilities. The first one goes called multiplicity leadership. It's much more easy for me to say that in Danish. It's also a little bit difficult though, but in English it's very difficult for me to pronounce that. But hopefully it will be easier for you. Tech and data leadership, and then the last one is transformation leadership. So now I'll take the one with the difficult word, multiplicity leadership. It means being able to maneuver as a leader within the organization in the many realities. You have many different bottom lines that you have to take aware of. You also have a lot of different employees. You also have a lot of different partners, a lot of technological partnership, and so on and so forth. And you have to be aware that standard solutions do not work anymore. Every individual, being a customer, employees, a partner, and so on, expect individual consideration. And on top of that, everybody also expects sustainable practices within your organization. So you have to maneuver in all that, the multiplicity environment. So the first one is that you should as a manager and management should respect and take into consideration the many different types of customers, partners, and technological interfaces which the organization has. Then you also should be aware of the many different types of bottom lines, such as sustainability, social responsibility, data ethics, financial and US sustainability goals, UN, this is a spelling yesterday, for 2030, and incorporate digital technology and data into this work. And then employment. And you should ensure that individual employees experience the workplace and the relationship and job as meaningful and should not lead on the basis of the one-size-fits-all. Tech and data leadership means that you, as the management and leadership within the organization, respect IT security policy and understands that what the potential is in technologies, how they change the work that is done in the organization, and the need for competences and leading implementation and realization of benefits. And the three element here is that the management should have the necessary insight into new technology, data analytics, IT architecture, and so on, to assess the possibility and what a new decision will mean or require of change and resources within the organization. And then the golden question will be, which knowledge do they actually need? What is necessary insight into new technology, data analytics, and IT architecture, and so on, for a general leader to master? It's another discussion. It will take we don't have time to answer that question today, but that's a question that has occupied me for many, many years. And I think I have the answer, but that will be another webinar. And then management should be able, the leadership should be able to implement and take a responsibility for successful implementation of new technology and IT system, and ensures that the benefits are realized. And then the last but not least, they should ensure that the up-to-date policy about IT securities and the rules and policy made in the organization around IT and data use are known within the organization, and they also are respected by the employees. And last but not least, transformation leadership. Here you can see a picture again. Sorry, I didn't comment on all the pictures because I don't have time for that, but hopefully the pictures inspired you to understand the capability better. But this picture here I'm very fond of because it shows a group of people who's on a journey. There's a rocket dancing landscape in the background, as I talked about when I presented Digitally Visionary. And some of them have a very, very heavy load because they were good. They have a lot of knowledge from the more analog and not digital transformer organization. So it's a little bit heavy for them to be on the trip. Whereas you can also see there's people in the front who's very much quicker to adapt to new realities, and are much more keen to being a part of the digital transformation journey. So when you have good transformation leadership in the organization, you are good to making the purpose of the digital transformation meaningful for the employees. And you create a burning desire among the employees to take part in the journey with many unknowns, even for oneself as a leader. So how good are you as a leadership team to create a digital mindset and a common language, both in management and among employees, about digital transformation, and manage to create both motivation, burning desire, and so on? And how good are you actually in executing things? So now something is decided, maybe you have a pilot project that you want to go full scale, you have a design sketch, how do you realize that? You have a prototype, how do you actually kind of bring that to the market and so on. So you should, as a leadership team, be good in executing. And also expect that there is and appreciate a high speed of change in the organization. And then you have to, as a leader, have to be open about your own kind of learning needs, so to speak, and be honest about them. Dare to ask questions. That also reveals your own lack of knowledge when it comes to digital and digital transformation in general. So this is the true element within transformation leadership that's important. And if we take a look at it back to the software, then I made a benchmark to see if employees and leaders actually score themselves, benchmark up to CXOs. And you can see here that the CXOs in general score themselves, and score the organization higher than employees and leaders does. That is quite interesting, I think, but maybe not a big surprise. But now I can actually document it, and it goes for both leadership, strategy, technology, and organization. But what I was especially curious about was the transformation leadership. So I took a closer look on that one at the 3 elements. And here you can see where they actually score themselves much higher in openness, also in execution, and a little bit higher in motivation. So this was the 10+3 capabilities on some of our data and results from our tool. And what can it be used for, our tool? You can map the organization capabilities for digital transformation. You have the intuitive graphic. It's an online, so you can click yourself in the reports where you can engage your entire organization. You can clearly see which capability you need. You can also get an overview of different groups within the organization. You can use it to, as I showed you, to track your progress. You can map the level of capability for each part of your organization and see difference among respondents, as I also showed you. That if you tracking shows some departments are falling behind, you can target specific efforts as needed within that department, benchmark between groups, departments over time, and so on and so forth. And then I promised you, and it was interesting for me when I prepared myself for today, I looked into the high score of elements within the capabilities. What are organizations best at, and what are they actually need to improve? And so now we get the high score first. It's based on 2,410 respondents. So what they are best at is actually to be open. Being open-minded towards new digital possibility and honest about its own learning needs, and dare to ask questions that reveal its lack of knowledge. So openness under transformation leadership is actually scoring the highest score. Followed very close, at the same score is employment under multiplicity leadership. Security also is high, it's 4.7. I think that maybe I was actually a little bit surprised about that one, because if you look at security today, it's a very, very hot topic. And I think this score is actually maybe the interpretation of that score in my head is that people think that they have up-to-date policy and rules about IT. So, so I think it's high. And the next one is inspiration under digital visionary, and followed by attractiveness under ecosystem mindset. All this, I think, this is the 5 highest score of the elements under each of the capabilities. So this 5 is actually telling me that they think that they are very good off. They are good in inspiration. They create an attractive environment. They are open-minded towards learning also by themselves within the organization. They are good in employing the right people and so on. And they do it in a secure way. That's the story about this high score. And the last one, I'm a little bit, I have to look more into that one. And then the lower score is exploration, you know, have being able to explore things and have resources for that, handling the tension between working on the one hand with the exploitation hand and on the other with the exploration. It's about being in beta mode, monitoring. That was about how do you monitor the digital and the technological development. How to evaluate new technology, and be configurability under digital visionary. For me, this is the story about we could be better in giving resources to develop new. We're not comfortable to doing something that is not completely done before we release it to the market. And we are not very good in understanding and using new technology in what we are doing. And we also prefer not to reconfigure our organization that much. So this is all the internal stuff that you need to be able to succeed, in my opinion. So this is, so this was the low score. And this was actually what I had for you today. There are 5 minutes left for questions. You are more than welcome to raise your hand or to write in the chat. And I think that my colleague in Digitopia will take care of that one, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It was a great presentation, Pernille. Thanks for that.
Thank you. It was a whole book in 50 minutes.
Yeah, but it was heavy stuff and it needs to be digested. That's for sure. I don't know if any of the attendees have any direct or specific questions. Would love to answer. And there is one, I guess, coming. Let me check. Would you like me to read, Pernille?
Well, let me see if I can see this in the chat or.
It's in the chat. It's from Peter Michael Peterson, if I'm not pronouncing it.
No, I cannot see it. Oh, I can see here.
I can read it if you want.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Yeah, he says, thanks for this great presentation, Pernille. Question is that what digital maturity should a leader have to create a digital transformation, and how and in what way is the digital maturity used to influence a digital transformation? Can I?
Yeah. I think, Peter, that you need to have a digital mindset. I talk a lot about that in my books and in my work in general, but I didn't emphasize that much today. But you have to have a digital mindset, and you build a digital mindset. You need to have that in generation 3 to kind of proceed in the way that I understand digital maturity. And if you don't have a digital mindset, which I define as something that you understand the technological and digital development, how it influences your organization, how it influences your customer and partners, and you have to be able to change your practices accordingly. You have very difficulties in actually digital transform your organization and reach the higher maturity on my maturity ladder or staircase. I don't know if that answers your question, but it was an attempt to do so. Otherwise, Peter, you're welcome to send in a comment or raise your hand or something again. Yes.
I'm waiting, but no comments or no questions at the moment.
Then I would like to say thank you so much for your attention. And
one more. Hi, yeah, Peter says thanks.
Yeah.
No.
You're welcome, Peter.
Yeah.
And you are always welcome to reach out either to me directly or to DI2X on this address. And I'm sure that Digitopia, for those of you who are more linked to you than to us, I'm more than welcome to reach out to you. So thank you for today and have a great day.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. Have a great day.